Today we're going to talk about carbs. Carbs are one of the more important aspects of our diet. A lot of people really just don't understand what they are, how they function. So we're going to cover that. What carbs are, the different kinds of carbs, how important they are in our physiology, what they do inside of us, how they're stored, how we make energy, and this is really, really important because it's a very, very misunderstood subject. This Your Health Reclaimed, where we expose the root causes, the fuel, Lyme, and chronic illness so you can finally heal, helping you to understand and heal the root cause of Lyme and chronic illness so you can reclaim your health and restore your life. I'm Dr. Brad Montagne, veteran functional medicine doctor. We've been helping people who have been to multiple docs, never found any help anywhere, get their life back for 4 decades now, dealing with some of the worst nightmare cases out there. People who can't walk, can't talk, can't function, can't work, and we get them healthy again when no other doctor was able to. So let's take a look at carbs. Everybody calls them carbs. The full name is carbohydrates. They have a whole bunch of very, very, very important functions, and it's really, really important for us to know. First and foremost, the first goal of all nutrition is to promote elimination. And elimination, the whole control of our gut, its function, its movement of material through it that we call food, and the ability to eliminate pretty much hinges on three things. Those three things are fiber, water, and thyroid function. The thyroid controls the muscles that move the food down the pipe called our gut. So it is with carbohydrates that we find the fiber. It's not another food sources, not in proteins, it's not in fats. It's always in carbohydrates. And with inadequate carbohydrate intake, we have inadequate fiber. The fiber absorbs water, and that bulk is what helps the muscles in the gut wall move all the food down the pipe. Oh, we take a good fiber like pectin that's really common in fruits. Apples are well known for the pectin in them. Those will absorb up to 10 times their volume in fiber. And now it's always been considered one of the best fibers out there. Guar gum will hold many more times the water content than pectin will. You can put like a rounded teaspoon in a 12-ounce glass. Fill that up with warm water, stir it up, and it'll turn to almost jello in a matter of a few minutes. It's insane how much water that holds. That's a much better bulking agent, and when people don't have adequate bulk, you can add fiber to your diet. You want to add it with meals, not in between them. Because if you do it in between them, you got this huge mass with all kinds of bulk in it that the gut can move along, and the food doesn't have any of that. So it's like a plug that has to push the food down the pike, and that's not healthy. Fiber has to be mixed in with our food. So that's a real critical one. And so let's look at the different kinds of carbs. We've got simple carbs, and we got complex carbs. And most people don't realize there's a difference. Simple carbs are sugars. Sugars are what everybody's afraid of because they don't understand. So sugars are what our primary fuel is through the entire body. So that's the most efficient food. It pretty well converts into energy at about 100% rate. Happens quickly. We don't have a lot of storehouses for this. We have typically 90 to 120 minutes of storage of carbohydrate to fuel energy, which will give us Well, it's 90 to 120 minutes. About a quarter of that is in the liver. The rest is in the muscle tissues and all that. So if you go out to exercise, you're going to have anywhere from about 70 to 90 minutes of energy in the muscles, and about 20 to 30 minutes of energy inside of the liver. Now, that's a new statistic that's really new to me. And that's something about science that a lot of people don't understand. I was shocked when I was introduced to the errancy of science that's out there. It was an opening lecture coming into grad school, and in that opening lecture, the teacher made a statement that 50% of what you're going to learn in this institution is false information. And that sat me straight up in my chair. How many others in the room? I don't know. I was sitting toward the back of the room, and I didn't see many others reacting the way that I did. But my first thought is, why am I here? Why am I going to waste years of my time and tens of thousands of dollars in tuition and books and all that, and live a life of a pauper for years for false information? But that teacher was honest. And after letting that statement hang for a while, what she stated was critical for everyone to know. We are going to teach, this is what she said, we are going to teach you the current body of science as we know it today. Research is going to prove that half of what we believe to be true today is false information. It's up to you to keep up with the science so you know which is which. Now, back decades ago, we were told by the body of science that there was only about 15, 20 minutes of energy in the muscles, and there was significantly more than that in the liver. And so this was an eye-opening thing to look at what the current body of science is saying, and you cross-convert, confirm that thing, and there's more storage in the muscles than there's in the liver, and there's a lot more time of storage of that energy than we were taught decades ago. But there you have with science. And a lot of people elevate science as if it's a god and it's just the gospel and it's always true, and it's not. It's just not, and we need to accept that. It needs to be tested and challenged through clinical means and different kinds of trials, all kinds of different ways to do that, to prove what is and what isn't true. And that's certainly not been true in nutrition. It has not been true in medication. It's not been true in supplementation. Those fields are highly manipulated because there's so much revenue tied to it. So they tweak the truth to promote things that will sell. And a lot of that's in fear tactics, and things just aren't true. So we get into simple carbs. Those are sugars. Glucose is the one that's looked at mostly, and that's what's measured in urine, that's what's measured in blood samples, all that. It's pretty common for me when we do a take-in of a new patient, we'll do a typical clinistic. Glucose says nothing, says there's none there. And yet I use a spectrometer to measure all of the dissolved sugars, and their sugars are diabetic levels. It's not glucose. So that's something to throw out there that people don't really realize. When we look at fructose, the fruit sugars is 4 times sweeter than table sugar, and it destabilizes blood sugars. We look at stevia and monk fruit. Those are commonly promoted as a safer sugar. Stevia has not been safe for a long time. The pathological microbes convert to make that their primary energy source in about 3 weeks inside of the gut. That's candida, things along that line. Monk fruit, it's been a whole bunch healthier, but looking through the literature to find out what's really going on, they put erythritol, that's an alcohol sugar, in both stevia and monk fruit. It has to be pure. It has to say it's not, have that in it, to not have it there. So to get real true monk fruit that's not full of laden with erythritol, it's a lot more expensive. It's a lot harder to find. The erythritol completely destabilizes blood sugars also, which, by the way, all your artificial sweeteners, NutraSweet's one of the classic ones is out there. They all are neurotoxins. They all destabilize your blood sugars. They all have food additives in them to make you hungry, so you go get snacks. People call that the munchies. And those things undo all the calories you're saving in the first place. So those things are toxins. They create a lot of diabetic problems also. So those are the things you really need to know with all that. We don't want to eat a lot of simple sugars. Low sugar fruits are fine, high sugar fruits are not. You take a banana in a green state is mostly starch. But you take a banana with a yellow peel with a bunch of brown spots on it, all those starches have converted, or a large part of those starches have converted into sugars, and they're starting to ferment, and that's not very healthy. So there's this continual change going on with everything. And it's really not a good idea to eat a lot of simple sugars. Small amount, very small amount, not huge amounts. When we look at complex carbohydrates, these are starches. This should be one of our primary fuels because this is where all the fiber is. So we store a fair amount of our energy in the starches. The starches are more efficient to be able to store. The sugars have water attached to them, the starches don't. The sugars, they tend to be converted into energy with oxygen at 100% efficiency. The other foods, like fats, are about 75% efficient. Your muscles don't work at full efficiency, and you really notice that in your brain when you have been fasting for a while. It typically takes about 2.5, 3 days in the average person for the body to convert into ketosis, where you start burning fats, and your brain only works at a 75% efficiency. Most of your muscles are close to that also. So that's what that hitting the wall is, and getting a second wind is when that conversion happens and the body starts burning the fat byproducts. Those are your ketones, things along that line. So we really want to eat primarily starches because with the starches, we have all of the fiber. The fiber is what fuels or gives all the bulking within the gut to move food along and increase elimination. By the way, talking of elimination, most people's bowel habits are completely inadequate, and it makes them very, very toxic. They studied all of the cultures where there's no incidence of gastrointestinal disease. Their bowel habits of elimination are 3 to 5 times a day in the cultures where there's no gastrointestinal disease. So we take a culture like ours, where that's 50% of the visits to doctors is gastrointestinal problems. And the doctors, for the most part, don't have an understanding to be able to help people because they don't know how the gut functions. So the standard, if you want to be healthy and not have any gastrointestinal problems, is 3 to 5 times a day. Most people in America, maybe once, a few or twice, not many or more than that. Years ago, we had somebody come in who was a real jokester, and that person actually put a reel up on social media that went viral. A bear climbed up. He was hunting up in a tree stand in a tree, and a bear climbed up, and its nose got right to his feet. And he took a video of that. Now, got on social media and that went viral. He was just a goofy guy, and he said he had a girlfriend once that she went once every 2 to 3 weeks, and we thought he was kidding. But that person came into our office later, um, got very giddy when their bowel habits got up to 3 times a day, totally transformed their health, and they're off and running on their own when that happened. So that's one of the goals that we really have for that. We store starches a lot more efficiently because they don't have to have water attached to them. And we burn them a lot more efficiently because they utilize oxygen in a way where they burn it pretty close to 100% efficiency. Whereas when we burn fats, that's 75% efficient max, but it doesn't use oxygen. So that's commonly what we get with the second win. So we look at the foods that are high starches that really increase elimination. These are really critical. You should write this down because this can really change your life. The two primary foods that's full of starches that give enough fiber to really normalize bowel function, so you're eliminating like you should be, is legume family, that's your beans. And things like winter squash. Summer squash is really light, airy, and it's really easy. You can cook it and it just disappears. You can squeeze it and there's not much there. We have a lot of cellulose in dark leafy greens. Cellulose is typically insoluble fibers. It's not a high quality fiber to really help normalize bowel function. You have to eat just huge volumes to do that with that. So winter squash is one of the better foods for that. A fair amount of our roots have a lot of insoluble fiber too, that help a lot, but they also have high sugars. When we look at table sugar and the glycemic index, it's 100, a carrot's 97 or 98, and most of those convert into sugar once they're cooked, if you overcook them. Beets, much the same way, very high sugar content. Potatoes, there's not many clean potatoes out there. Yukon Golds are the only one that really has a good chance of being clean. No such thing as a clean russet. Very, very small percentage of the reds are clean. I doubt it's even 5%. But the Yukon Gold that's one that has a good chance, especially if they're organic. We were shopping yesterday and we found a source of those. But they're a softer fiber that don't hold up as much. So we're really looking at winter squash and the legumes as being the best source of that. So let me recap this. We've got, with carbs, we have fiber that fuels our bowel function. We got simple carbs. We need to have a small intake of simple carbs. Those are what convert directly into, those are sugars, those convert directly into energy. The starches, we store those. They're more efficient at storage. They can be released, converted very quickly into energy. The energy we have in the carbs is like 90 to 120 minutes of energy. And after that, we use all that up and it starts to convert into needing other sources. The adrenal hormones will melt our muscles. Those get converted into sugars in the liver and released into the bloodstream with the stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline primarily. And it's not a good idea to be running on those sugars very much. But with the high stress we have in our society, people are running that way a lot more than what they should be. So proper starch intake with the proper kinds of starches, the legumes and the winter squash are the best, will increase the bowel habits. And with increased bowel habits, it really helps normalize bowel function so that you don't have problems inside of your gut. So this is your Health Reclaimed. We're producing these every Monday and Thursday. Leave a review down below. Follow us. We're going to be giving a bunch of pearls into health and the reality of what's really going on to keep you healthy. So until next time,